We're going to continue with where we left off, talking about when a person accepts Shabbos. So, learned last time, we're going to basically go like the Ramah at the end of the day, who makes a compromise between the Bahag and the Rosh, quoted in the Shulchan Aruch, that men accept Shabbos when we daven, that we're going to be learning about more today, when we say mariv. Women accept Shabbos when they light or when they say the bracha, whole discussion there. We're going to have to figure out the reason why there's a difference. The Shulchan Aruch over here, he says that according to one opinion, you cannot make a condition. There's a discussion when we say that a woman lights, when she lights, she accepts Shabbos like the Bahager says the bracha. Hadlik Ner Shel Shabbos, she accepts Shabbos. There was a argument between the Mordechai and Rameh Rodenberg, who says that she can make a condition that she's not going to accept Shabbos upon herself until later, until Baruch Hu is said. However, the Kolbo argued on that and said that she cannot make a condition. The condition would be null and void, and it would not be effective. It would not work. Talking about she wants to make a condition to work after. To do malacha, do muksa. Beis Yosef quotes this Kolbo. And he says, specifically, the family members are allowed to make a condition not to accept Shabbos, but a woman who lights is prohibited to do muksa, to do malacha after she lights. Since she made the bracha, there is no greater way of accepting Shabbos upon herself than that. Ein lacha kabbalah gedola miza. And therefore, she cannot make a condition. The Aruch HaShulchan explains that the bracha that she recites when she lights, that enters in, even against her will, the holiness of Shabbos. Since she mentions lahadlik ner shel Shabbos, therefore, if she wouldn't accept Shabbos immediately, it's considered a bracha in vain. Shalos Shuvas Eretz Tzvi says a similar idea, explaining the Bahag. The Or Zarua writes she cannot make a condition for another reason, because people are going to see her. Someone who's going to see her is going to say, "Oh, look, this woman, she's doing malacha, she's doing muksa after she lights." So it's like a Maris Ayin issue. The Aruch HaShulchan provides another reason why she cannot make a condition not to accept Shabbos, based on the opinion of the Bahag, and how the Ran understands that and explains that the Chachamim made an enactment that the lighting is going to be the last activity that's done. And that is how you're going to accept Shabbos.
It's come down pretty strong against this.
That's right. And therefore, one individual woman does not have the ability to prevent that from occurring by making a condition. Now, this is why, practically speaking, we are going to hold, like the Magen Avram will quote at the Bach, that a woman should only make a Tanai l'soyrach if she needs to, aka in a pressing situation, as we'll see more about. Because there are serious opinions and reasons why the condition would not work. The Shulchan Aruch continued and quotes the opinion of the Rosh and Tosfos, who argue on the Bahag and say that we accept Shabbos upon ourselves when we daven mariv. A.K. Baruch Hu, says the Shulchan Aruch, Mizmor Shir nowadays is like there. Baruch Hu, we accept Shabbos upon ourselves when we say Mizmor Shir. The Ramah, as explained by the Aruch HaShulchan and others, is a compromise between these two main opinions in the Shulchan Aruch, a.k.a. the Bahag, that you accept Shabbos when you light, versus the opinion of Tosfos and the Rosh, you accept Shabbos when you say Baruch Hu / Mizmor Shir. And this is what men do. We don't accept Shabbos when we light, we accept Shabbos. We accept Shabbos by Mizmor Shir, if we would like. Why Baruch Hu? Baruch Hu is the beginning of mariv. And therefore, according to our custom that we say Mizmor Shir Liyom HaShabbos before mariv, we accept Shabbos when we say Mizmor Shir. It was like their Baruch Hu because they used to not say Mizmor Shir Liyom HaShabbos. That's the explanation of the Shulchan Aruch. This is obviously referring to someone who's making an early Shabbos, because if he's making a later Shabbos, if he's davening after Seitzah Chochavim, surely he's not even allowed to do malacha, not allowed to do muksa from after the time of Shkia, halachic sunset, regular sunset. I mean, sunset is sunset. Type in Google what time is sunset, it will be the same thing as Shkia. Maybe even a little bit before you shouldn't do malacha to get a Tosefah Shabbos. You want to add to Shabbos. The Ramah comes in and makes this compromise that we just been discussing. A woman who lights automatically accepts Shabbos upon herself unless she makes a condition not to. And the condition could be a mental condition. She doesn't need to verbalize and say, I hereby announce that I am not going to accept Shabbos. She can think it, and that's enough. This Ramah, based on how the Magen Avraham learns it, the Bach is only referring to an oppressing situation. Mishnah Brura, we'll see also. The Aruch HaShulchan explains that this custom is kind of a compromise between the two main opinions in the Shulchan Aruch. Someone who lights himself, a woman who lights herself, since she's going to recite the bracha and mention Shabbos, she's going to assume to accept Shabbos upon herself, and therefore she's going to accept Shabbos when she lights like the Bahag, unless she makes a condition explicitly that she is not going to accept Shabbos. That condition will work according to the Hagois Maimonides quoting the Meir Rudenberg and the Mordechai as we quoted earlier today. However, other people in the family who do not light the Ner Shabbos, who do not light for Shabbos, and they don't mention Shabbos, they are able to go like the Rosh, and they would not accept Shabbos until Mizmor Shir.
Now, this is all, when you're doing all this before Shkia, but obviously, most of us nowadays in the winter months, but wait before you get to Baruch Hu, it's past Shkia already. Or Mizmor Shir even in the winter months.
Well, you have to realize like this, not necessarily, because by definition, the time to light is 18 minutes before sunset,
Right.
before Shkia. You can't daven. Most places they end mincha by sunset.
Right.
Shkia.
Okay.
Now they got 8. Right. So if you're gonna end by Shkia, so then yeah. So then around Mizmor Shir, you're gonna get to Mizmor Shir in how long? 5-10 minutes from then?
Depends who's
Depends who's
davening.
davening. Yeah. Granted.
But it's already past Shkia at that point.
Yes, granted. That's correct. That's correct. This would apply more in the summer. In the winter, it's trickier to do with Tosefah Shabbos and add it in, which is really Siman Reish Samach Aleph. Yes, that's a good point. Excellent point. Shin Gimel. A mental condition could be made. Let's say a woman didn't have in mind that she was going to make a condition. But she just had in her mind, she's going to do malacha, she's going to do muksa after she lights. So the Derech Chaim writes regarding this Ramah that she could make a mental condition. Umihu yeshlizar lahasnos beferish. However, she should be careful to make an explicit condition.
Just said she didn't have to. It's a different thing.
Right. So they're saying that it's implied that if she wasn't thinking anything, the condition wouldn't work.
Mm-hmm.
That's the point of this. Yeah. That's the point. Rashi Pesach Frank in the Shilos Veteshuvos Shavet HaLevi says, is that a good condition or not? And he concludes that a woman would specifically need to make a explicit condition. However, according to the Das Torah, in a case of great need, you could be lenient, even if she had in mind just to do malacha, muksa after. It's like she made a condition. Till you say Baruch Hu. It's very interesting when we zoom in on this Ramah for a moment. A woman accepts Shabbos upon herself unless she makes a condition that she's not going to accept Shabbos. And if she makes a condition, she's allowed to do malacha muksa ad Baruch Hu, until Baruch Hu. The obvious question is, why does the Ramah say until Baruch Hu? When, as we know, it's Mizmor Shir nowadays, not Baruch Hu. Those V'Hadir Mishnah Brura says, or Mizmor Shir Liyom HaShabbos. She could do malacha until Mizmor Shilim Shabbos, but does not specify if it's until Baruch or not. Why the Ramah says Baruch? We hold until Mizmor Shir she could do malacha,
Right.
but they don't specify this question that we addressed a few days ago or yesterday. Why the Ramah says Baruch not Mizmor Shir she could do
Right,
malacha,
we're talking about that, right.
but they add in or Mizmor Shir.
Mm.
Shin Dalet in the footnote. There's a lovely footnote over here. The Pri Megadim writes. This is actually. I just want to zoom out for a minute. I remember many years ago I had this question. It's very relevant in the summer. I feel like this Simon's better to learn in the summer, but it's so great to learn anytime that it could just so important. I had the question for years. If a man is going to go to shul in the summer, listen very carefully. Let's say Shabbos starts at 8 o'clock. I'm just making up a random number, okay? Let's say the minyan that he's going to go to is 7:30. So he's going to daven mincha 7:30. So he is going to say better. Let's say he's going to go to a 6:30. All right? Shabbos doesn't start for another hour and a half. He's going to the earliest minyan in town. You're allowed to. Have to plug a mincha, whatever. Right? He's going to be accepting Shabbos upon himself like an hour or so, an hour and 15 minutes before Shabbos starts. Is the woman obligated to accept Shabbos upon herself earlier, or could she do it later? Does a husband and a wife have to accept Shabbos upon themselves together? Does it have to be like within a 10-minute gap or so? Or no? And if so, when does she need to accept Shabbos? Furthermore, if a woman lies, does everyone else in the house with her who's not going to shul automatically accept Shabbos? Does the husband need to accept Shabbos?
Does this also depend if they're the only minion in town or if they're
Yeah, that's right. That's right. This is a very, very, very important and applicable shaila. So it gets addressed slightly in this footnote. See some different opinions regarding this. The Pri Megadim is of the opinion that even though the Isha is Akeres Abayis, she's really the one running the show at home, let's be honest. And everyone else, her children, they follow after her. When it comes to lighting, there's a leniency that they do not accept Shabbos.
You mentioned that before also.
Yeah. In which regard?
He mentioned that even though the woman's lighting, everybody else can do their malach until
Right.
Baruch.
Oh, right. Correct. And they can turn on the lights. We're going to do that, right? However, once the father davens, mariv is more stringent. Davening is more stringent. Everyone else, according to the Pri Megadim, now must accept Shabbos. He's not allowed to do malach. He's not allowed to do muksa. That's a tremendous stringency for the wife.
Mm-hmm.
Comes along the Toras Chaim and says, "What are you talking about? It's not true. Father davens, he accepts Shabbos upon himself, not everyone else who's in the house." Also, Moshe Feinstein's Zatzal has a leniency regarding this. In his Shilos Veteshuvos Igros Moshe Chaim Chelik Gimel Siman Lamed Ches, I didn't look it up. I just looked at this footnote. I had a mental note to look it up. And says that a woman would not get dragged after the husband in terms of when to accept Shabbos. That means that if the husband davens at that earlier minyan, as long as she lights before the husband comes home, it's okay.
Okay.
According to her emotion. She doesn't follow the husband. Not only that, even if the husband comes along and says, I prohibit her from doing muksa and from doing malacha, I'm requiring her to accept Shabbos when I accept Shabbos earlier. Doesn't help. She still doesn't accept Shabbos. He says it's logical to say that she really shouldn't be doing work for her husband, malacha, muksa, something for her husband that the husband wouldn't be doing at that time when he accepts Shabbos, for example, cooking. But if she wants to shower, put on makeup, she could. Also, the Mahari Shif says this, Shitif. I'm not even sure what that is. But anyways, this is the leniency for emotion. However, Shmuel Vosner, where's Ari? What's his name? Ari or Aaron?
Yeah.
Yo, we're here.
Are you there?
Ari's here.
Comes along the Heilige Reb Shmuel Vosner in the Shilos Veteshuvos Shavet HaLevi Chelik Vav Simin Lamed Hey. Might be Chelik Zion. And he says, I know. When the father accepts Shabbos upon himself, everyone else has to accept Shabbos. So if he's going
Ooh.
to daven earlier in the summer, everyone has to accept Shabbos, including the wife. The wife would have to light according to the Shevet HaLevi, according to Rav Vosner, before the husband davens mariv.
It's not the pick from outside the sales.
Before
It's
Mizmor
not
Shir,
the pick.
probably. And then he adds, when the Ramah said that the other people are allowed to work after, yeah, that's specifically talking about if the woman lit already, then they could do malacha, then they could do muksa. The woman wouldn't now obligate and cause everyone else not to do malacha or muksa, however the husband would. Comes out, we have basically a two-way argument over here. It's interesting how they line this up because the Pri Megadim is basically saying the same the Shevet HaLevi is basically saying the same thing as the Pri Megadim. I don't know why they don't group that together. They make it a little bit more complicated over here by splitting it up with the sandwich situation. But basically, what you have over here, I mean, there's slight nuances. Maybe that's why they break it up. You basically have the leniency of Moshe Feinstein that if the husband davens, mariv, doesn't matter. The woman doesn't need to accept Shabbos upon herself. She doesn't automatically accept Shabbos. She shouldn't be cooking for him. That's a leniency for a Moshe. So if a husband davens early, as long as she lights before he gets home, it's fine. Which, by the way, may I add, it's a problem when the candles aren't lit. The husband comes home from mariv and then she's lighting. That's a big no-no on Shabbos.
Why is that?
That's it. You don't want to have over here in the same house. Someone already accepted, someone didn't, and they're in the same exact house like that, and he's home from Mariv. I mean, he's fully accepted Shabbos. I don't know. I just feel like that's wrong. We'd have to see if that's brought down more.
Okay.
I just feel like it's wrong. It just rubs me the wrong way, halachically.
It just seems that. Right, halachically, what's
Halachically,
the dinner? It feels wrong, but I'm
it
just saying,
feels
like,
wrong. Not even hashkafically for sure. It feels wrong. Talking halachically. I don't know. We'll have to see if that comes up more. It could come up more in Reish Samachal.
okay.
But then we have the Pri Megadim. The Pri Megadim who says that no, once the husband davens, no one else could do anything. That's the Shevet HaLevi. No one else could do malacha. That's it. Show's over.
Once the wife lights, no one else can do malacha.
Incorrect.
What?
No, once the husband
Once the
davens.
husband
According to
davens?
the Pri Megadim and the Shevet HaLevi, no one else could do malacha. Everyone agrees pretty much that once the wife lights, other people could still do malacha. They
Yeah,
could do
yeah, yeah,
muktzah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So, what about wait, where is he? Where would he be up to? Sorry, where would he be? Where is he? Was it bar? I didn't think.
Mizmor Shir, once he does Mizmor Shir, that's when you have the stringency of the Pri Megadim, of the Shevet HaLevi, that a woman accepts Shabbos upon herself.
And is there any way to be makel as far as we don't um so we don't carry in Borough Park, but if once my wife lights, is there any is there any room to be makel if you're gonna carry
You just said.
before Shkia, but after is there anything
The only way to be lenient would be is if you're going to make a condition, which should only be done in a pressing situation.
He's saying his wife's lighting and he wants to carry.
You want to carry or your wife wants to carry?
No, she would want to carry.
Oh.
No, so then you need to make that condition, which is only done in a pressing situation. If there's no Erev there and you want to actually carry in a place where there's no Erev,
No, there isn't that we don't hold by.
well, if you don't hold by it. I mean, if you don't hold by it, you don't hold by it. The
Yeah.
question is, would there be a difference if you don't hold by it because it's a stringency versus if you don't hold by it because from the letter of the law you don't hold by it? Mikra din or a chumrah? Maybe there could perhaps be a difference, but I'm not an expert in Erev, so I'm not gonna
Yeah.
pretend like I would know. But it would seem like only in a pressing situation. That's what it seems, unless maybe you hold as a stringency not to hold by it.
That should make sense.
Yeah, I'm saying without coming onto
Okay.
that condition, which should only be done in a pressing situation as is.
Sounds like there's a precedent.
Yeah. I mean, a pressing situation, you want to say every single week it's a pressing situation to take my kid to the playground and carry them to the play. I was always interested in that because the Gemara says, "Achai noisei es atzmo." a living creature could carry itself, so to say. So if you're carrying someone, it's not considered carrying. But it's not so simple. That could only be midaraisa, and then whatever. There's, like I said, I'm not an expert in here. I'm not going to pretend like I am. So, okay, we're going to start the Mishnah Berurah now. We can make a siyum on the Shulchan Aruch and Ramah. I think this is the most time we ever spent on a Shulchan Aruch and a Ramah in the history because it's so long. There really is a tremendous amount of knowledge. There's a tremendous amount of knowledge. The Mishnah Berurahs are going to be quite easy for us and smooth because it's straight out of the Magen Avram and the Bach, which we already learned all of them. So we're basically just going to see, this is basically essentially going to be review, but when we learn it, we're going to be doing it with the footnotes and those of Hadar Mishnah Berurah, which is going to add more insight on top of the Magen Avram that we already saw and the Bach. V'ima ish madlik afilu kishehu mevarach ala dakaso kidlel sivav. If the father is going to lie to the husband, even when he's going to make a bracha on lighting, leikam and hago umutar b'malacha. There's no custom, meaning no custom for him to accept Shabbos upon himself, and therefore he's going to be able to work. Mutar b'malacha. He's going to be able to work, be able to do malacha that he's not allowed to do after muksa. When we call makam toiv lahasno. So nevertheless, it's good to make a condition. So the obvious question is, what's going on over here? If we're saying that a man isn't going to accept Shabbos when he lights, so then why is it good for him to make a condition? So if I'm not mistaken, we already saw, I think the Machzis Shekel explained this way, as well as the Pri Megadim, that it's good to make a condition because we just learned today, in the beginning of today's session, there are legitimate opinions who hold that the condition doesn't work. Right? But there are also opinions who hold that the condition does work. So now, the idea over here, the idea over here is that if a man's lighting, so we hold, like the Rosh, like Taisus, that, okay, he's going to accept Shabbos upon himself when he says Mizmor Shir, when he davens, aka Mizmor Shir nowadays. However, we still want to contend with the legitimate opinion of the Bahag, who says that we accept Shabbos upon ourselves when we light. And therefore, in order to cover that Bahag, you have nothing to lose by making a condition, because there are opinions who say that the condition does work. So that's why it's good for him to make the condition in order to cover himself. It's basically an insurance policy. He's hedging his bet, so to say. He's diversifying, so to say. He's trying to say, okay, I'm going to do insurance. Just in case we hold, like the Bahag, that we accept Shabbos when we light, then I'll be covered. I have nothing to lose. At least according to the opinion, you say the condition does work. That's the explanation over here. Footnote. See Shin Vav. He explained like this. A woman accepting Shabbos upon herself when she lights is not from the letter of the law. It's not Mekra Adin. It's because the custom is to be stringent, like the Bahag, who says that that's when we accept Shabbos, when we light. However, by a man who lights, he never had that custom to be stringent like the Bahag, so it's possible that he could be lenient like the Rosh. He's not going to be able, that he's not going to accept Shabbos upon himself until Baruch Hu Ekei Mizmor Shir. The Shulchan Aruch Harav explains, same idea. Kaf Chaim says accordingly, he's not going to accept Shabbos until Baruch Hu, aka Mizmor Shir, and therefore he could say the bracha before he lights, so that it will be over Lashas, and that's what we saw in the Ber Halacha. That was the basic psak. And therefore, if we light, we would say the bracha before we would light, and we wouldn't cover our eyes. Similar to the Drisha's mother on Yontif, same idea. It's explained in the Bach. The reason why it's good to make a condition is because, according to the Bahag, that we accept Shabbos when we light. So now you won't be able to do malacha. Now you're gonna have to accept Shabbos. Oh, but now you could, according to the opinions, you say that a condition works. Okay, what we just explained. Okay, so next session in Mirza Hashem, we're going to talk about in more depth, davening mincha before lighting, Should a man also daven if he would light? We already learned, probably. Also, making a condition, what is considered a need? If a woman wants to drink, if she wants to eat after, but she doesn't have time to do so before she lights because it's the end of the time, could she make a condition? A partial condition. So that's what we're going to be learning about, some very relevant topics. And then also another interesting and relevant topic, if a woman lights or a man, and it all blows out. Everything
lights.
blows out. If it's before the bracha, after the bracha, if just a few blew out, if it blew out after 10 minutes, if it blew out and it's still, you made Shabbos early, it's before sunset. Let's say it's before Seisel Chavim, asking someone who isn't Jewish to kindle it, rekindle. Do you need to? What's the story? Very relevant topic, which very few people know anything about. So we're going to be covering that next time. It's Hashem. Yeah.
Do we talk about oil versus we spoke
Oil
about...
versus candles? That's going to be the next simon Reish Samach Daled. The whole simon. In short, use olive oil, preferably. All right, everyone, have a wonderful day.
Have a nice day.
Okay.
Welcome
Good
to you.
sounds.